When you hear the name Rolls-Royce, you probably think of pure luxury, right? You think of royalty, of untouchable, handcrafted perfection. But the real story behind that famous grille, well, it's way more dramatic than you could ever imagine. We're talking about a story of an orphan's obsessive genius, a high-flying aristocrat's tragic death, a catastrophic bankruptcy that rocked a nation, and honestly, one of the most brilliant corporate chess moves in modern history. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so it all kicks off with one of the most unlikely partnerships you'll ever find. On one side, you've got Henry Royce. This guy was born into poverty, an orphan by the time he was 9, started out his life selling newspapers, but he was a self-taught engineering genius, completely obsessed with making things perfect. And on the other side, you've got Charles Rolls, his total opposite, a wealthy Cambridge-educated aristocrat, a bit of a daredevil, and a true pioneer of both cars and airplanes. So you had one man with the money and the high society connections, and the other with the pure mechanical genius. So how in the world did these two even meet? Well, Royce had started his own little electrical company with just 70 pounds to his name. And he got so frustrated with his own sputtering French car that he basically said, you know what, I'll just build a better one myself. A friend heard about this and set up a meeting with Charles Rolls in 1904. And right away, it just clicked. 2 years later, Rolls-Royce Limited was officially born. But the partnership was tragically short-lived. In 1910, at just 32 years old, Charles Rolls died in an airplane crash, making him the very first Briton to be killed in a powered aviation accident. Just heartbreaking. Now, even with the devastating loss of Rolls, the company he helped create was already becoming a legend. I mean, just 1 year after they officially formed, their car, the Silver Ghost, was declared the best car in the world by the most important car magazine around. And this wasn't just some catchy marketing slogan. No. This was a reputation they earned through impossibly silent engines, flawless engineering, and a reliability that was almost supernatural for the time. And yeah, when they said best, they also meant exclusive and expensive. The price for that original Silver Ghost would be something like 200,000 euros in today's money. So from the very beginning, this was never just a car. Owning a Rolls-Royce was a statement. It was for kings, for industry titans, for the absolute global elite. So, Henry Royce, now running the show alone, decided to honor his late partner by diving deep into aviation. During World War I, Rolls-Royce became a massive supplier of aircraft engines for Britain. In fact, their engines were the ones that powered the first ever non-stop flight across the Atlantic. And back on the road, they were just crushing it. So much so that in 1931, when their main rival, Bentley, went bankrupt during the Great Depression, Rolls-Royce just bought them. Just like that, they had total control. But the company's real crowning moment, that came during World War II. The British government was desperate, so they went to Rolls-Royce, who then developed the legendary Merlin engine. This thing was an absolute masterpiece of engineering. It was the roaring heart of the Spitfire fighter planes that basically won the Battle of Britain. At that point, Rolls-Royce wasn't just a car company anymore. It was a national hero, a symbol of British excellence that helped win the war. But after decades of nothing but success, the company's ambition finally got the better of them. In the late 1960s, they decided to bet everything, and I mean everything, on a revolutionary new jet engine for civilian airliners. It was called the RB211, and the plan was incredibly audacious. Build an engine that was lighter, quieter, and way more powerful than anything else out there, all by using a brand new, totally experimental material, carbon fiber. And this is where the engine of perfection completely fell apart. See, Rolls-Royce signed a huge fixed-price contract with the American aviation giant Lockheed, but the experimental carbon fiber fan blades, they failed. They failed catastrophically during testing. So they had to be replaced with much heavier, much more expensive titanium. The cost and the delays just spiraled out of control. And because the contract price was fixed, Rolls-Royce had to eat every single penny of the overruns. By 1971, the company was over 200 million pounds in the hole. And then the unthinkable happened. Rolls-Royce, the ultimate symbol of British quality, went bankrupt. The collapse was such a national crisis that the government had to step in and nationalize the entire company just to save it. The company was split in two, the aerospace division and the car division. And for decades, the car business just sort of limped along until finally, in 1997, it was put up for sale. And this, my friends, set the stage for an absolutely epic corporate battle. The question on everyone's mind was,
who on earth was going to end up owning the crown jewel of the car world?
So two German titans step into the ring, BMW and Volkswagen. Now, BMW seemed like the obvious choice. They were already supplying engines to Rolls-Royce. They put in a really strong offer, £340 million. But then, at the last possible second, Volkswagen comes flying in over the top with a massive £430 million bid. The owners took the deal. It looked like it was all over. Volkswagen had won. Or so it seemed.
And then comes the twist. And you gotta love this part because it's the one tiny, crucial detail that somehow almost everyone missed. Volkswagen had just spent nearly £500 million to buy the most prestigious car company in the world, but they hadn't actually bought the right to call a single car a Rolls-Royce. Okay, this is where the story goes from a business deal to a masterclass in corporate strategy. You see, the Rolls-Royce name and that iconic RR logo, they didn't belong to the car company. They belonged to the completely separate aerospace company, Rolls-Royce plc. So while Volkswagen was busy buying the factory, the car designs, and the Bentley brand that came along for the ride, BMW quietly went straight to the aerospace firm and cut a deal. In one of the greatest corporate headfakes of all time, VW had bought the body, but BMW, they had just bought the soul.
And this chart just shows you the genius of the move. Just look at these numbers. Volkswagen paid a jaw-dropping £430 million for the physical stuff. Meanwhile, BMW paid just £40 million, less than a tenth of that, for the only part that was truly priceless, the name, the logo, and the spirit of ecstasy on the hood. They had Volkswagen backed into a corner completely.
So after some very, let's say, tense negotiations, a deal was finally worked out. BMW would get full control of the Rolls-Royce brand. And they didn't even want the old factory. They built a brand new state-of-the-art facility in Goodwood, England, and totally relaunched Rolls-Royce for the 21st century, cementing its future as the absolute, undisputed king of luxury cars.
So what happened to Volkswagen, the company that got outsmarted? Well, they were left holding the Bentley brand. And guess what? They turned it into a roaring success. Freed from being the other Rolls-Royce for the first time in 70 years, VW poured billions into Bentley, bringing back its glorious racing heritage. They went on to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2003 and transformed the brand into a performance luxury powerhouse. So in the end, what looked like a total disaster actually ended up creating two huge winners. Which brings us to our final thought. After all the dust settled, Volkswagen's official story was, oh, no, we only ever wanted Bentley all along. It was a great way to save face after, let's be honest, one of the biggest corporate blunders in history. But looking back at how it all went down, do you really believe them?